Vanessa's perfume lingered in the air longer than her presence ever did these days. She left early, came home late, and when she was home, she wasn't really there. Her eyes scanned the room like she was counting seconds, not memories. I stood at the kitchen counter, untouched coffee growing cold in my hands. I heard the door open behind me. No greeting. Just the click of heels and the sound of her tossing her bag onto the chair she never used. "Late night," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Had a meeting," she replied, her voice clipped. Her eyes didn't meet mine. I nodded slowly. "Second one this week." She glanced at me finally. "What are you implying?" "Nothing," I lied. But it wasn't nothing. It never is. Her meetings started to happen on Fridays. Her phone never left her side. Her screen was always dimmed. The Vanessa I married used to tell me everything, from who annoyed her in traffic to how her boss chewed gum like a teenager. Now I was lucky to get a good night. That night, she took her glass of wine and went straight to the bedroom. Didn't ask me to join her. Didn't even kiss me good night. And I just stood there in the hallway like a stranger in my own home. Later, as I lay in bed, I heard the faint hum of her voice, whispering, smiling, then silence. I opened my eyes and turned toward her. She faced the wall, curled away from me like I was a cold draft. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, low, careful. "Just replying to emails," she mumbled. I didn't respond. I didn't believe her either. The next morning, I watched her pull on a tailored suit with a little too much effort. She looked flawless, but I noticed something else. She was nervous, excited even. "Big day?" I asked. She paused, just for a second, then smiled. "Just another meeting." I nodded. And for the first time in 5 years, I didn't wish her good luck, because I knew, deep down, she wasn't dressing for business. I once believed silence was peace. Now I know better. Silence can be punishment. Silence can scream. And in this house, silence echoed louder than ever before. Vanessa wasn't unfaithful in the way men fear. She wasn't careless or obvious or cruel. She was distant with precision, a ghost wearing her old skin. Our conversations became clipped exchanges about groceries, meetings, and dry cleaning. Intimacy was replaced with sterile efficiency. "I'll be late tonight," she said one morning without even turning away from the mirror. Her fingers clasped an earring. Her smile was automatic, hollow. "You've said that every day this week," I replied, my voice almost a whisper. "Quarter close. You know how it is." But I didn't. Not really. Vanessa was a corporate lawyer, not a CFO. She didn't work in finance. Quarter close didn't apply to her. I said nothing, though. Just watched her adjust her blazer, spritz her perfume, and walk out the door without a second glance. I started noticing details. New clothes she never mentioned buying. Her perfume changed. The way she touched her phone before entering a room. Screen down, always. One night I walked in as she quickly minimized her screen. She smiled too fast, too wide. "Just checking emails," she said again. That phrase became a knife. Every time she said it, I died a little more. I talked to my friend Oliver over lunch, someone I hadn't seen in months. I needed an outside perspective. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was losing it. "She's either cheating," Oliver said bluntly, "or planning to." I flinched. "That's not helpful. It's honest." "People grow apart," I murmured, poking at my food. "Maybe that's all it is." Oliver gave me a look like I was already drowning. "You don't sound like a guy in a marriage. You sound like a guy in mourning." That night I watched Vanessa sleep, her back to me again, breathing slow, face buried in the pillow. I used to memorize the curves of her face. Now I memorized how far apart we slept. I reached for her hand once. She stirred and pulled away without waking. Even in dreams, she wanted space. I started arriving home early, watching, waiting. One Thursday evening, I pulled into the driveway at 6. Her car wasn't there. By 8, still no message, no missed calls, no nothing. She walked in at 9:30. "Didn't you see my text?" she asked casually, slipping off her shoes. "No," I replied evenly. "Must have missed it." She looked down at her phone, eyes narrowing. "Weird. Must not have sent." That lie, though small, hit harder than it should have. "Vanessa," I said finally. Do you still want to be married? Her face twitched, just for a second. Then she exhaled. That's a dramatic question. It's an honest one. She crossed her arms. You're being insecure. Because I feel invisible? She didn't respond. Just turned and walked to the bedroom. That was the moment I realized something worse than cheating was happening. She wasn't trying to hide an affair. She was trying to erase me before it even began. The car behind me never hit the brakes. I saw the blur in my mirror, then felt the jolt crack through my spine. Metal screamed. My coffee flew out of its holder. I don't remember if I yelled. I pulled over, breathing hard, ears ringing. The other driver jumped out apologizing, hands up like a kid caught stealing. Minor damage, nothing serious. My rear bumper looked like a crumpled soda can, but I could drive. He offered cash to avoid paperwork. I accepted. Didn't feel like dealing with insurance or Vanessa asking 100 questions. My head throbbed. I just wanted quiet. When I got home, the house was dark. Vanessa wasn't home yet. Again. I headed to the kitchen, tossing my keys on the counter. That's when I noticed it. Her phone. She'd left it. Unlocked. Sitting in the corner like a ticking bomb. I froze. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't. But temptation was a drowning man's rope. I picked it up. Messages. Dozens of them. Some deleted, some not. My hands were shaking as I scrolled. Nothing from a saved contact, but one thread stood out. A number without a name. Unknown. You looked incredible last night. I couldn't stop staring. Wish we had more time. I can't believe we're really doing this again. Her replies were more cautious. Teasing, short. Vanessa, stop, we're not doing anything. You're bad for me. One drink doesn't mean anything, but it did. I knew it. You don't say again unless there was a before. I scrolled further. Unknown. He still doesn't suspect? Vanessa. He suspects everything, but he's too passive to act. That one broke something in me. I put the phone down, slowly, like it might explode. I didn't move for a full 5 minutes. My pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. 1,000 thoughts spun at once. The messages weren't explicit. No names, no photos, no smoking gun, but I knew. I knew, and worse, she knew I wouldn't confront her. I left her phone exactly where I found it. Didn't touch another thing in the house that night. When Vanessa walked in just after 11, humming softly to herself, I was sitting on the couch in silence, lights off. She jumped. You scared me. I said nothing. You all right? She asked, cocking her head. Rear-ended, I replied. Nothing serious. She walked over, peered at me. Are you hurt? No, just rattled. She nodded, then leaned down and kissed the top of my head. It felt wrong. That night, I stared at the ceiling while she slept beside me. Her breathing calm, untroubled. I lay there, drowning in the weight of her lies and the sick knowledge that she thought I was too weak to fight back. She was right, at least for now. The name came to me like a ghost from a drawer I thought I'd locked forever. Brandon Hayes. She mentioned him once, years ago. Her first love, the one who broke her heart, the one she barely survived. The name wasn't just a scar, it was a brand, seared behind her perfect voice the night she told me about him. And now, the tone in those texts, the cautious affection, the again, it had to be him. I didn't say anything. I didn't even ask. But I started searching. A quick search online showed me he was back in the city. He had moved out of state for work years ago, but a month ago, coincidentally, just before Vanessa started acting different, his name popped up in a press release. He was now vice president at a logistics firm, newly relocated, office 5 blocks from Vanessa's. There was even a photo. Same smug smirk, square jaw, perfect hair. The kind of man who never learned to say sorry because the world never made him need to. The same day I found that out, Vanessa came home dressed in a black dress I'd never seen before. You're going somewhere? I asked carefully. Client dinner, she said, grabbing her clutch. Last minute. Where? She blinked. Linden House. Linden House. The restaurant where we celebrated our anniversary 2 years ago. The kind of place where waiters pull your chair out and the wine list has its own staff. It wasn't where you took clients. It was where you took people you wanted to impress. Need me to drive you? I offered, watching her eyes. No, they're sending a car. Of course they were, I smiled. Which client? She hesitated. Why are you asking so many questions lately? I'm trying to be interested. You're trying to pick a fight. That night I waited 15 minutes after she left. Then I followed. I wasn't proud of it. I never thought I'd be that man, creeping in the shadows, clutching a steering wheel with white knuckles. But betrayal changes you. It rewires your shame into survival. I parked across the street, watched through the tinted glass as she stepped out of the black car. She looked radiant, confident, happy. The woman I married didn't exist anymore. This one walked with purpose, and not toward me. She entered the restaurant. 3 minutes later, he did. Brandon, same face, a little older, a little more polished. He didn't even look over his shoulder, didn't worry about being seen, because she'd told him what she told me. He's too passive to act. I watched them sit across from each other. I couldn't hear them, but I saw enough. The lean in, the hand that brushed hers, the soft, nostalgic smile that doesn't belong to strangers. And then something broke, not in anger, not in jealousy, it was peace. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't insecure. She was cheating, emotionally, if not physically. She was betraying me with a man who once destroyed her, and now she was letting him do it again, this time, with me in the collateral. I drove home, quiet, calm. I didn't mention a word when she came in 2 hours later. I pretended to be asleep, but my eyes were open. I filed the paperwork the next morning. There was no screaming, no slammed doors. Just me, sitting at a desk in a quiet legal office, signing my name with a hand steadier than I expected. The clerk looked surprised when I didn't hesitate. "You sure you don't want to talk to an attorney first?" she asked. I looked her in the eyes. I've had all the conversations I need. I didn't go home right away. I walked around the block 3 times, holding the envelope in my coat pocket like it was ticking. The wind was sharp, slicing through my sleeves. But I wasn't cold. I was finally awake. That night, when Vanessa came home, she dropped her heels by the door and immediately reached for a glass of wine. Routine, rehearsed, performed. "How was your day?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" I'd caught her off guard. We hadn't asked about each other's days in weeks. "Just curious," I said, setting down my book. "Anything interesting?" She shrugged. "Meetings. You know how it is." I smiled. "Sure." I waited until after dinner, until the dishes were done, until she was on the couch scrolling her phone, eyes dim and thumb flicking through curated illusions. Then I went to the bedroom, came back and placed the envelope in front of her. She stared at it. "What's this?" "Divorce papers." Silence, then laughter. She looked up, almost amused. "You're joking." "I'm not." She tilted her head. "Because I've been working late?" "Because I followed you to Linden House." Her face changed. That one name was all it took. "You followed me?" she snapped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious." "Grant, that is, do you have any idea how crazy that sounds? Are you spying on me now?" "I didn't need to spy. You were careless and arrogant." She stood up, her voice rising. "There's nothing going on between me and Brandon." "You were holding hands," she scoffed. "We're friends. We have history. You can't be jealous of history." "I'm not jealous. I'm done." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. "You can't be serious," she whispered. "Over dinner with an old friend?" I stepped closer. "It's not just dinner. It's the lies, the texts, the late nights, the way you treat me like an inconvenience, like a ghost." She blinked, stunned. For a moment something flickered in her eyes, maybe fear, maybe guilt, but it passed. "You really think this is going to scare me?" she said slowly. "You think you can just hand me papers and I'll come running back crying? I don't want you back." That hit harder than the papers. She sat down again, quiet now. "You're not going to win this," she said. "You know that, right?" "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to end it." She shook her head. "No, you're trying to punish me. But you're not that man, Grant. You never were." She wanted me to fold, to flinch, to apologize. Instead, I walked out of the room. That night, she didn't come to bed. She sat in the living room for hours, scrolling her phone, pacing, whispering into the dark. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. It didn't take long. 2 days after I served the papers, Vanessa left the house with a single suitcase and no goodbye. Just a cold glance from the doorway, like she was walking out of a hotel room, not the life we built together. I didn't stop her. Let her run. Let her chase whatever delusion she thought Brandon could offer her. But I didn't expect the phone call that came later that night. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out. Then I heard the voice. Grant? Soft. Familiar. Not Vanessa. Who is this? I asked. A pause. It's Elise. Elise Hart. I froze. I hadn't heard that name in years. Elise? I repeated. Brandon's Elise? She gave a humorless laugh. Was. Not anymore. I heard about you. About the divorce. My grip on the phone tightened. How? Vanessa posted something cryptic, and Brandon's been celebrating. At least that's what he calls it. I sat down. Why are you calling me? Another pause. Because you're not the only one he's lied to, and I think you deserve to know who he really is. I listened. For over an hour. Elise told me everything. Brandon's charm, his confidence, the way he made you feel seen, until he decided you were boring. Then came the lies, the cheating, the manipulation, the casual cruelty masked by smiles. He hadn't changed. He'd just found a new target. He'll drop her, Elise said flatly, the second she's no longer entertaining. Maybe she knows that, I said. No, Vanessa's smart, but she's not wise. She thinks she can control him, that she's different. She always thinks she's different. We spoke until midnight, and something strange happened. I didn't feel bitterness. I felt clarity. Elise wasn't calling to stir drama. She wasn't trying to warn me for revenge. She sounded calm, steady, like someone who'd already mourned the fire and come out the other side. You sound good, I said. I am. Took time. She hesitated, then added, You don't sound broken either. I expected you to. I was, for a while. Well, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. The next morning, I got a message from Vanessa. Vanessa, I hope you're happy. You've embarrassed me. Don't think this makes you stronger. It makes you spiteful. He's not like you. He knows how to treat a woman. I didn't respond. She wanted me to rage, to argue, to prove I still cared. But the silence said more than any reply could. 3 days later, I saw them together in a photo someone posted, Brandon and Vanessa at a charity gala. Arms linked, matching smiles, the image of a perfect couple. But all I could think about was what Elise told me. How those smiles never lasted. How Brandon always moved on once he got what he wanted. And how this time, I wouldn't be the one left broken. It didn't happen all at once. Vanessa's unraveling came in pieces, quiet, desperate fragments hidden behind curated photos and clipped tones. The woman who once walked out of our house with a suitcase and a smirk had started posting motivational quotes and pictures of wine glasses alone. Brandon was fading. I knew it before she did. He's not answering as quickly, Elise told me over coffee one afternoon. That's how it starts. I sipped my drink. She'll notice. She already has, but she'll deny it. I didn't ask how Elise knew. She'd lived it. A week later, Vanessa showed up at my doorstep. No call, no warning, just her standing outside with sunglasses over her eyes and a carefully crafted expression, somewhere between pain and poise. I'm not here to fight, she said. Didn't think you were, I replied, leaning on the doorframe. I think we should talk. Not about the divorce, about everything else. I think the divorce is everything else, she exhaled. Grant, I'm not here to beg. I just want closure. Closure. That word people use when they want to reopen what they themselves destroyed. Come in, I said flatly, but only if you're not here to lie. She walked past me like she still lived there, like no time had passed. She sat on the same couch where she used to scroll silently beside me every night. Only now she was performing. I was wrong, she started. About how I handled things. About not being honest. I raised an eyebrow. Which part are you admitting to? She hesitated. It wasn't an affair, not in the way you think. So you weren't emotionally invested in another man while married to me? That's not fair. It's precise. You either were or you weren't. Her eyes darted to the floor. It felt different. Brandon was familiar. I didn't expect it. I didn't respond. She folded her arms. He's been distant lately. There it was. The real reason she came. He's pulling away, I said. And now you're here. That's not why. I cut her off. Yes, it is. And it's okay. You thought he'd catch you. Turns out he just watched you fall. She flinched. I made mistakes too, she said after a long pause. I didn't deny it, but I didn't validate it either. You left, I said, and I let you. Do you hate me? I looked at her, truly looked. No, but I don't miss you either. She sat in silence, then stood. Maybe someday we'll understand each other, she whispered. Maybe. But today's not that day. She walked to the door, paused. Grant, is there someone else now? I didn't answer, because maybe there wasn't, but maybe there could be, and that uncertainty scared her more than anything else I said. The first pre-trial hearing was set for a Thursday morning. Vanessa arrived in full armor, hair perfectly straightened, designer coat, cold expression. She barely looked at me, but I saw it. The slight tremor in her fingers as she adjusted her bag. Her attorney was aggressive, younger than mine, full of noise and flash. They opened with a character attack. Mr. Miller has a history of emotional instability. He followed my client, invaded her privacy, and created a hostile domestic environment. She feared for her safety. I almost laughed. Instead, I looked at my lawyer, who gave me a calm nod before replying. We have no objection to airing the full communication history, text messages, timestamps, social media. If we're going to talk about invasions of privacy, let's make sure we're not cherry-picking. The judge raised an eyebrow. Vanessa shifted in her seat. It was the first time I saw her blink like she'd misjudged the temperature of the room. Outside the courtroom, she approached me. I didn't want this to be ugly, she said, voice low. You hired a lawyer who called me unstable. You are unstable, Grant. You ambushed me with papers, made me look like a fool. You did that on your own. Her eyes narrowed. You really think people will believe you over me? I don't need them to. I have the truth. She was silent. 2 days later, I got an email. Vanessa was requesting full ownership of the condo, plus alimony. Her lawyer claimed she sacrificed her prime earning years for the marriage. My lawyer responded with a single line. Our client is prepared to submit photographic and digital evidence regarding infidelity. Vanessa's request was quietly withdrawn. Then the smear campaign started. Mutual friends stopped replying. I saw subtle posts online about narcissistic men who play victim. She was building a new narrative, and I let her, because the people who mattered already knew. Elise sent me a message that same night. Keep your head, she's unraveling. Don't get pulled in. I replied, too late for her, I'm already out. Vanessa didn't know the past would betray her. She thought she had everything under control, the timeline, the optics, the story she'd crafted. But truth doesn't need a spotlight. It only needs a crack in the floor to seep through. It started during the second court session. Vanessa's attorney submitted a timeline of the emotional abuse she allegedly endured from me. Part of their evidence included a series of emails between her and her therapist, but what they hadn't counted on was discovery law. My legal team cross-referenced those emails with travel receipts, timestamps, and GPS data. That's how we found him, Brandon, listed as her emergency contact during a work retreat, 2 months before she even claimed they bumped into each other again. A lie, documented, and it opened the door. My attorney filed a motion to include communications between Vanessa and Brandon as evidence of bad faith in the marriage, something Vanessa vehemently tried to block. But the judge approved limited access. And with that, the cracks became fault lines. Messages were uncovered, months of them. Some deleted, some archived. One even included a photo of Vanessa in a hotel room mirror, captioned, "Guess who's back where she belongs?" She tried to claim it was part of a work trip, but Brandon wasn't on the company roster. Then came the mistake neither of them expected. Brandon's own lawyer, who was handling a separate civil suit for business malpractice, accidentally leaked shared drive access during evidence review. In it was a folder labeled PR_crisis_backup, and inside, screenshots of Vanessa's posts, drafts, captions written to control the narrative of their relationship even before the divorce was public, including a message she never sent. "He'll never leave me. He's addicted to being needed." When my lawyer read that aloud in court, the room went still. Vanessa didn't speak. Her lawyer asked for recess. The judge denied it. Later that evening, Elise called. "I saw the court update. News travels fast. He kept things on all of us," she said. "I'm not surprised." "I thought I was the weak one," I said quietly. "Turns out I was the only honest one." "Honesty isn't weakness, Grant. You just never had to lie to control someone." The next morning, a journalist emailed me. Vanessa's name was trending on a local blog. Rumors about legal manipulation, screenshot leaks, false narratives. It wasn't viral. Not yet. But the mask was cracking. She called me later that night. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "I don't deserve this," she said, her voice shaking. "You're not the man I thought you were." And for once, she was right. I wasn't. For months, I had stayed quiet. I didn't post. I didn't defend. I didn't correct lies in group chats or react to vague accusations online. I just waited. But silence isn't surrender. It's strategy. And now it was my turn. I agreed to a short interview with a local podcast. Not a media circus. No tabloids. Just one camera, one host, and a quiet 30-minute segment about truth, resilience, and what it means to lose a marriage you never really had. I never named Vanessa. I didn't need to. I spoke about gaslighting, about loving someone who rewrites the past faster than you can document it. I talked about being called unstable while holding every receipt. I talked about how betrayal doesn't begin with bodies. It begins with silence, with distance, with someone who stops coming home in ways you can't explain until it's already over. The episode dropped on a Monday. By Tuesday, it had 200,000 views. By Wednesday, it had 1 million. And by Friday, Vanessa's name was trending again, but this time, no one believed her version anymore. The court ruled in my favor for equitable distribution. No alimony. She kept the condo, but I kept my dignity. That wasn't a line I fed myself to feel better. It was a line the judge used during final remarks. Marriage cannot be reduced to perception. Facts matter. Intentions matter. And in this case, deception is well documented. After the hearing, Vanessa approached me in the hallway. No cameras, no lawyers, just her. "You planned this," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "No," I replied calmly. "You did. I just let the truth breathe." Her jaw tensed. "You humiliated me. You did that to yourself." She stepped closer. "You think this makes you better than me?" "No, just free from you." Her eyes flickered. "Brandon left," she said, voice breaking. I didn't respond. "He said I brought too much noise into his life." Still, I stayed silent. "I didn't expect you to win," she admitted. "You were always so passive." "I was exhausted," I corrected. "There's a difference." That night, Elise invited me to a small dinner gathering. Nothing dramatic. Just 6 people, a quiet house, and music that didn't ask for attention. She opened the door wearing a sweatshirt, hair tied back, no performance. "You look relieved," she said. "I feel finished." We didn't talk about Vanessa, or Brandon, or court, or lies. We talked about music, places we wanted to travel, things we were too busy surviving to dream about before. And as the evening faded, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hollow. I was ready. Not for revenge, not even for closure, but for whatever came next. I should have seen it coming. The headline hit a week after the divorce was finalized. Corporate wife speaks out, the silent abuse behind the perfect marriage. No names, no photos. But it didn't take much imagination. The timing, the wording, it was calculated. The article didn't accuse me directly. It suggested. It implied. It painted Vanessa as a woman who lost herself in a controlling relationship, who had to fight to reclaim her voice. It was anonymous, but everyone knew. It went viral in under 12 hours. Old coworkers messaged me awkward condolences. An acquaintance from college tagged me in a long thread about men weaponizing silence. Someone even emailed my boss. The silence that had once protected me had been flipped into accusation. Elise sent me the article with a single line. She's playing her last card. I knew she was right, but it didn't make it easier. She's smarter than this, I told Elise on the phone that night. No, she replied. She's just more desperate now. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was the doubt it planted. The people who had stood by me now had to decide whether to keep doing so. The story had changed. The villain now wore a softer shade of gray. I didn't respond publicly. I knew better. But that didn't stop the slow trickle of discomfort. Sideways glances at work, polite emails from HR checking in, friends hesitating before inviting me to group events. Vanessa had turned perception into a weapon again. Then something unexpected happened. A second article dropped 3 days later. Different outlet. When truth is weaponized, one man's quiet battle against false accusation. It quoted legal documents, referenced podcast statements, compared court rulings against Vanessa's claims. And at the bottom, written by Elise Hart. I called her immediately. You didn't have to do that, I said. I didn't do it for you, she answered plainly. I did it because I know what it's like to have your truth rewritten. She paused, then added, I'm tired of watching women like her make the rest of us look small. The article exploded, even bigger than the first one. Readers weren't used to seeing a woman defend a man in public. It didn't fit the narrative. It wasn't neat, but it was real. Vanessa didn't respond, not online, not publicly, not even privately. And for the first time since this all began, the silence felt like surrender. I walked into work the next Monday and nobody looked away. They looked at me. One coworker nodded. Another offered coffee. A third clapped my back in the hallway and said, Good piece. I didn't ask which one he meant, didn't need to. A month passed. Vanessa disappeared from social media. The silence was different this time. No vague posts, no curated photos, no one tagging her at brunch or networking events. It was like she had folded her online identity into a suitcase and vanished. Rumors swirled. Someone said she moved back in with her sister out of state. Another claimed she'd quit her firm before they could ask her to resign. A third said Brandon had resurfaced, briefly, only to ghost her again. I didn't confirm any of it. Not because I didn't care, because I no longer needed to know. My mornings were quiet again. Coffee brewed on time. My phone didn't buzz with tension. I opened the windows without wondering what kind of mood would walk through the door behind me. Peace, as it turns out, isn't loud. It's clean. Work changed too. Projects flowed easier. My team leaned on me again. Clients respected the calm I brought to meetings. One of them, an investor named Wallace, shook my hand after a pitch and said, I can tell you've been through something. You lead like someone who's bled. I didn't know whether to thank him or apologize, but I nodded. And then there was Elise. We didn't rush anything. She didn't try to fix me, and I never asked her to. We just existed. She invited me on walks. I invited her to cook. We watched old movies, shared old wounds. She told me once, you don't need to prove you're healed. You just need to be real. And I was. The first time I saw her laugh, not the polite kind, but the real, head-thrown-back kind, I felt something shift, not a spark, not a sudden pull, a warmth, a trust. The kind of feeling you don't have to chase to know it's safe. Meanwhile, I saw the world stop revolving around Vanessa. Mutual acquaintances moved on. Some apologized. Some didn't. A few quietly unfollowed her when Elise's article made it clear who'd been hiding what. One day, I ran into her former boss in an elevator. He looked uncomfortable. I heard things got messy, he said. They did, I replied simply. Shame. She was brilliant, just couldn't stop trying to outmaneuver her own shadow. I said nothing. What was there left to say? By the end of the second month, the court filings were sealed. No appeals, no loose ends. And for the first time in years, I was no longer legally or emotionally tied to her. I'd finally stopped checking the rearview mirror and started looking out the windshield. The letter came in a plain white envelope. No return address, no markings. It sat wedged between a water bill and a grocery flyer in my mailbox, looking so ordinary it was almost invisible. But my name was handwritten across the front in soft, familiar cursive. Vanessa. I didn't open it immediately. I left it on the kitchen counter while I fed the dog, took a shower, even started dinner. Part of me thought I'd just toss it in the trash. Another part knew I wouldn't. When I finally slid the envelope open, the scent of her perfume hit me. Old habits die hard. The letter was 4 pages long, ink on thick paper. The handwriting was precise, controlled as always. She started with something that looked like honesty. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect you to read this. I'm writing because silence is eating me, and this is the only way I know how to speak without defending myself. It was a strange letter, not an apology, not quite manipulation either. It read like a confession written for an audience that wasn't me. More like a woman trying to make sense of herself than someone trying to make peace. I thought I was smarter than love. I thought I could control every narrative, predict every outcome, stay one step ahead of the mess. But I wasn't smart. I was scared. I've always been scared. She wrote about Brandon, how he ghosted her, how she begged, how he told her she was too dramatic and unmarketable. Words that landed like bricks in her chest. She wrote about the court. I didn't lose to you. I lost to the truth. That's worse. Because the truth never loved me the way you did. She said she didn't hate Elise. She almost respected her. It's easy to be kind when you haven't been broken. She chose strength. I chose shadows. But then the letter took a turn. A familiar one. You always knew how to look like the victim. You didn't raise your voice, so everyone thought you were innocent. But silence can be cruel too, Grant. You could have fought for me. You chose to leave. And there it was. The rewrite. The subtle twist. That quiet needle of guilt she couldn't resist slipping in before the end. She closed with, I'll carry your name like a scar, not a memory. That's the punishment I gave myself. I hope it's enough. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and this time, I did throw it in the trash. Not because I hated her, because I had already healed. That weekend, Elise and I went hiking. Nothing dramatic. Just a 2-hour trail, shaded by pine trees and free of phone service. Halfway up, we stopped to rest on a rock outcrop. The wind was soft, the sky a perfect indifferent blue. She looked at me and asked, You okay? I nodded. Then told her about the letter. She didn't react, just listened. When I finished, she said, And how did it make you feel? I smiled. Like she still wants a stage. Elise nodded. Good thing you stopped selling tickets. 2 weeks later, I heard Vanessa's name again, indirectly. It came from a friend of a friend over a drink in the low hum of a rooftop bar. She's working retail now. Boutique shop out in Oak Ridge. No one's hiring her in law. I didn't flinch, just sipped my drink. She's different, he added, unsure if he was warning me or probing me. Quieter, looks, older. Some part of me should have felt vindicated, I didn't. All I felt was distance. Vanessa's fall hadn't come in fire. It came in quiet resignation. She'd disappeared not as a villain, but as a woman who finally ran out of lies to tell herself. I never went to Oak Ridge, never checked the boutique, but I heard stories, how she barely spoke to customers, how she took breaks outside alone, how she'd lost the sharp edge that once cut everything around her. One night, Elise and I drove past that side of town. We didn't plan to. We were coming back from a concert, laughing, hands interlocked, when I recognized the corner shop as we hit a red light. I turned my head, saw her, Vanessa, sitting on a small bench by the storefront, coffee cup in her hands, staring down the street like she was waiting for a version of herself to walk back from the past. She didn't see me, and I didn't wave, just turned back to the wheel when the light changed and drove on. That was redemption. Not for her, for me. Redemption isn't watching someone suffer, it's watching them fade, and realizing you no longer need to watch at all. A week later, Elise and I hosted a dinner for a few close friends. Nothing fancy, just good food, good people, real conversation, no tension in the air, no emotional landmines, no secrets waiting to detonate. At some point, while refilling glasses in the kitchen, Elise looked at me and said, You haven't said her name in weeks. I blinked. She was right. I hadn't. Not because I was suppressing anything, but because there was nothing left to say. Elise placed her hand over mine. You're free. she said, and for the first time, I said it out loud. I know. They say people don't change. I disagree. People change all the time. Some grow louder. Others grow still. Some hide behind the people they hurt. Others step out from behind the ones who hurt them. And then there are people like me, who finally stop living in reaction to someone else's story and start writing their own. It's been 6 months. The air is warmer now. The cold that once lived in my chest has softened, replaced by something else, something that doesn't ask for approval or explanation. Just breath. Elise and I moved into a new place. Nothing extravagant. 2 bedrooms, open kitchen, creaky floors that complain when you try to sneak a midnight snack. She wanted a reading nook. I wanted a gas stove. We compromised and got both. One morning, while unpacking the last few boxes, I found a framed photo buried beneath an old set of legal folders. It was from my wedding day. Vanessa was smiling. I wasn't. I stared at it for a full minute before gently removing the photo from the frame and replacing it with a print of a mountain Elise and I hiked together last fall. One moment exchanged for another. Later that afternoon, I took the dog for a walk through the neighborhood park. A small boy on a scooter nearly collided with us, his mother chasing behind, apologizing. "It's all right," I said, laughing. "I've been run over harder." She smiled. "He doesn't stop, like he's afraid of standing still." I watched the boy disappear down the path, wind in his hair. "Sometimes running feels safer than slowing down," I said. She gave me a look, curious, almost knowing, but said nothing more. That evening, Elise and I sat on the porch with 2 glasses of wine and a playlist of soft acoustic songs humming in the background. "You've been quiet today," she said. "Thinking." "About?" I looked at her. "Everything, and how little of it matters now." She smiled. "That's not true. It mattered. It changed you." "Yeah," I said, "but it doesn't own me anymore." She nodded. "That's different." I took a sip of wine. The sunset painted the sky in strokes of gold and violet, and for the first time, I wasn't waiting for the next disaster. I wasn't preparing for betrayal. I wasn't bracing for silence. I was present. Elise leaned into my shoulder. "I think we're going to be okay," she whispered. "I know we are. Not because of her, not because of me, but because somewhere between the collapse and the rebuilding, I learned that strength isn't about holding it together. It's about knowing when to let it fall apart, and still choosing to stand up afterward. So no, I didn't win, but I walked away whole. And after everything, that's enough.